This speaker has been recorded at a meeting of Addictive Eaters Anonymous. For more information, visit our website www.aeainfo.org.
My name's Tony. I'm an addictive eater.
Hi, Tony.
It's so good to be here. I was just thinking before actually that normally on a speaker night I sit there in the corner and I look around the room to see who's dressed up a little bit and freshly applied makeup and lipstick. So I can maybe safely say I am the first speaker for a while that hasn't done those things. But then I always thought my case was different. That held me back for a long time actually. I don't believe that today. I know that I'm in the right place and that I'm just a common garden addictive eater. And I was reflecting really on when I came here, I'd spent the last 8 years effectively sponsoring myself. Actually make that ineffectively sponsoring myself. In another fellowship, Alcoholics Anonymous, and through a power greater than me, I wasn't drinking and I wasn't drugging, but without those substances, the food that had always been there from when I was a little tacker just got even worse. It was just a sort of compulsion, obsession, just was always there. And I thought I'd have to battle it for the rest of my life, even though I knew the solution was here, and that was the kind of insanity of it. So eventually, when I came back, I hadn't even realised that something had shifted. And it was mainly because of more pain through eating. So in that unsuccessful 8 years self-sponsorship, I basically ended up separating, living apart from my kids most of the time, eating. I was basically eating most of the day, working and sleeping. And my life was so unmanageable that sometimes when I went to have a shower, I had to go down to the department store and buy a new towel because I wasn't keeping on top of the washing, looking after myself or the house or anything like that, but still thinking that I could beat it. And that was the kind of crazy thing. So fortunately, it got bad enough for me overseas that I just had this overwhelming feeling that when I got home, I had to come back here because I'd been to a meeting a long time before, maybe 17 years prior at that stage. And I heard a few people talking about being free of the obsession to eat. Most people were like me, they were still stuck in the problem, but there were a handful of people there, 2 of whom are still here, that talked about being freed from the obsession. And I thought that was pretty amazing, but I wasn't ready to do that for a long time. I couldn't imagine my life without food, without alcohol, without drugs. Those are the things I thought that were keeping me going. But something shifted in that moment when I was overseas. I knew I had to come back here, and I knew I had to maybe bring a completely different attitude. And that still took a while. I still tried to take care of it myself, and I still vowed I'd never get a sponsor. And there's all these things I was never going to do. And today I was reading in Daily Reflections about step 2 being the rallying point. Step 2 because it's February now. And I was thinking about step 2 being willingness, and I had to be willing to ask for help. That was the key. I believe, no question, that there's a power greater than me doing for me what I can't do for myself. The fact I'm not eating is entirely due to that power that I choose to call God. But for me to activate that power, I actually had to ask for help because that was the one thing it was one of many things that was holding me back. And I still remember being in a meeting where my sponsor later said it was a meeting that was trying to die. There were sometimes only 2 or 3 of us there. It was a lunchtime meeting. And one day I asked the only other person there, who hadn't been around very long, what her food plan was. And she reluctantly told me, and I didn't jot it down, but I ran back to the office, which wasn't far away after the meeting, and did I run? I probably, that might be an exaggeration, I wasn't really capable of running. And anyway, I went back to the office and I wrote it down, and I basically had her breakfast and her lunch, and then Tony's free choice dinner. So from the moment that I woke up in the morning, my mind was obsessed with what I'd be having for dinner that night. And it was just like a tape going the whole day. Well, you had Chinese last night, maybe Indian tonight, and you had a lot last night, so maybe not much to it. So I was still very much in that mode. And then one day after a meeting, I went up to somebody and said, who had been at that very first meeting, who had actually come around after that first meeting, the 12 Step meeting, many years before. And I asked, how did you think it would work if I kept my main sponsor in AA? My main sponsor was basically me. Apart from I'd have a cup of coffee with an old timer every now and again. Got a food sponsor here, and the response was, knowing you, Tony, that wouldn't work at all. And so I went away for another week, and without even planning to, at the end of the next meeting at that same venue, was at St. John's, the church, where we had the Mice family living. And at the end of that meeting, I found myself going up to the same person and saying, will you help me? Will you sponsor me? And the response I got then was, are you entirely willing to give up the food? And it's a while ago now, I can't remember exactly what I said, but it was along the lines of, I'm not 100% sure, but I think I am. I can't do it. And I was told to ring at a certain time next day. It was a Saturday morning. No, it wasn't. Was it a Saturday morning? No, it can't have been. Must have been. It was a public holiday. It was a Tuesday, around about Easter, I think. And I didn't normally get up early in the morning, but I couldn't wait to get up this day and actually make that call. And that wasn't coming from me. So there was a willingness. It was almost like I was almost gifted that willingness. But at that point, I'd had enough. I came to 12-step recovery as a atheist/agnostic. I was largely atheist, but if I was on a plane and it plummeted 10,000 metres, I was suddenly agnostic. But I always questioned a higher power, but from that moment I never really did, because from the moment I asked for help and was given some directions, I haven't had to eat. And no matter what's happened in my life, good or bad, from good things like getting married again, grandkids being born, haven't had to celebrate that with food, being around loved ones who've died, I haven't had to drown that with food or anything like that. And I know that doesn't come from me, but even though I was atheist agnostic, I always loved that bit in the 12 and 12 where it talked about the vice president of the American Atheist Society. He was able to get through step 2 because the concept of God was all encompassing. And one of the things that I've always hung on to around the second step is the power of the group. Like I've always believed in the first word of the first step, we, is really the kind of key. But for 42 years, I wasn't able to stop eating on my own with the best of help from health professionals or whatever. But once I came here and admitted I couldn't do it, and I asked for help, I haven't had to eat. I have no doubt that if I left, I'd end up eating again. Conversely, the more I've come, the more I've wanted to come. And that's a big change from where I was for all those years, coming in and out. And the thing I love now about a higher power is basically, I do believe what I was first told in an AA meeting a long time ago, that there's no limit to how far you can go here because there is no limit to God. There's a lot more to recovery than the food. My life can still be quite unmanageable. Digital detox is always a good idea. I tried that this morning and managed to fit in a decent meditation time. It's just having that willingness to ask for help in every area of my life, really. Thank you.